Joining us now, Skye Perryman, President and CEO, Democracy Forward. She appeared before Judge Boasberg last year. And Ken Dilanian, MS Now Justice and Intelligence Correspondent.
Greetings to you both. I want to read a little bit more from Judge Boasberg's latest ruling. This is what Judge Boasberg said about the sole purpose of the subpoenas or question. Did prosecutors issue those subpoenas for a proper purpose? The court finds they did not. There is abundant evidence that the subpoena's dominant, if not sole purpose, is to harass and pressure Powell either to yield to the president or to resign and make way for a Fed chair who will. Ken Dilanian, you cover the Justice Department extensively. Are you shocked by this ruling from Judge Boasberg today?
I'm not shocked, but it is an incredibly rare thing to see a judge quash grand jury subpoenas because Jeanine Pirro is right. A grand jury can investigate almost anything for any reason. Its dealings are secret for that purpose, and it gets to gather information even about rumors. But what she didn't address was that grand juries can't do this unless they're doing it for proper cause in good faith. And that's what Judge Boasberg's opinion said. It said that this clearly was not in good faith. He began the opinion by quoting Donald Trump on Truth Social, insulting Jerome Powell, calling him a loser, and saying he needed to lower interest rates. And he developed abundant evidence throughout his lengthy ruling that Donald Trump, what he really wants out of the Fed is for them to lower interest rates. And the law does not allow the executive branch to bully and control the Fed like that. And Boasberg said it's abundantly clear, the evidence is clear, that this investigation is simply a pretext, that there is no evidence, in fact, to support a notion that Powell committed a crime. But there's lots of evidence that they want to harass Powell to get him to do their bidding. And that is an extraordinary thing. We've not seen something like that before. Of course, the Justice Department looks at this and says, wait a second, we don't want other criminal defendants making similar arguments, and so we're going to appeal this all the way. They see this as an institutional prerogative for them. They're very concerned about it. And of course, MAGA activists are denouncing Boasberg as an activist judge, as a leftist, but he's not. He's a down-the-middle, well-respected jurist. He went to St. Albans School in D.C., a conservative religious school, on to Yale. He was at Skull and Bones, which is a conservative secret society where the Bushes were members. George W. Bush elevated him first to the bench, and then Barack Obama promoted him. But he is not considered an activist judge or a leftist by any standard, but he is clearly very exercised about what he saw with this investigation, guys.
I want folks to look at literally a Truth Social post from the President of the United States just yesterday. Quote, where is the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell today? He should be dropping interest rates immediately, not waiting for the next meeting. This goes to the heart of Judge Boasberg's argument. And I want to jump off of Skye, a point that Ken just made, of why and how, as somebody who has been a part of these legal battles against the Trump administration, how will potential other defendants be able to use the ruling from Judge Boasberg today?
Look, we have a saying around our team at Democracy Forward, we're in court literally every day, where we say, let them keep talking, let them keep tweeting. And that's what you see in Judge Boasberg's ruling. It's a rare ruling, but this is a rare circumstance where you have the President of the United States who is constantly trying to seek retribution against Jerome Powell, against others. And so you have him drawing out, there's pages and pages in the opinion of all of the things that the president has said. So this is just the latest rebuke of the administration and this retribution agenda, which is it's an improper purpose for the purposes of this subpoena, but it's also totally unconstitutional for a number of reasons. I also think it's important to just remind everyone, like, if this went to a grand jury, this president has not been able, and this Department of Justice has not been able to prevail in front of grand juries, even on a number of issues, right? Because they're really trying to push a retribution agenda as opposed to try to push justice in the law.
You know, Ken, you mentioned that the Justice Department is pushing this all the way up the ladder in their appeal because they're concerned about what this ruling could mean for them and the other cases they're looking at bringing and so forth. But they should be concerned because they shouldn't have brought this case in the first place, which is essentially what the judge said to them. This opinion, in my opinion, is a full-on indictment of this administration, this Justice Department, for its approach to the rule of law and how they have weaponized the legal system against, individuals, against institutions, in a way that has landed them in court, have landed them on the ropes with great opponents like our guest at the table, Skye Perryman and her organization, and others. When you're hearing them say these things, that we're going to keep pushing this, you also have Tom Tillis today urging the department not to appeal. He puts out a tweet saying this ruling confirms just how weak and frivolous the criminal investigation of Chairman Powell is. And it is nothing more than a failed attack on Fed independence. We all know how this is going to end. And the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office should have itself further embarrassment and save itself further embarrassment and move on. Appealing the ruling will only delay the confirmation of Ken Wash and the next Fed chair. Full stop. That's the bottom line. How does your reporting back that up? Because I know it does. You got to hear it.
You know what's interesting? Yeah, I mean, what's interesting, Michael, is that Donald Trump is his own worst enemy in this regard, because the smartest thing for them to do if they wanted to weaponize the justice system, if you believe, and a lot of people do, your view of how this is going, is to shut up and just do it and order her to conduct the investigation, but don't talk about it. But instead, by going out in public and insulting Jerome Powell and publicly proclaiming that Powell must lower interest rates, he's given Boasberg all this evidence to say that this investigation is not on the level. So we sort of thankfully, that is the situation, and they're not smarter about how they are deploying the Justice Department against their political enemies, because it's really indisputable, as you said, that they're doing that. I mean, my reporting from people inside the Justice Department, from people in the court system, from FBI folks, I mean, no one is suggesting that that's not happening. Even Trump officials themselves. I mean, you heard Susie Wiles in an interview essentially acknowledged that Donald Trump was seeking to use the Justice Department to go after his enemies. And again, we should remember, this is not something we've seen in the 50 years since Watergate. This defies a norm that was established after that scandal, where there was independence between the DOJ and the White House. There is not that independence in this administration.
I think what is really, I've been waiting ever since this ruling came down today from Judge Boasberg. I was sure someone out there was going to make this point. I was like, oh, by the time we get to 7 p.m., they would have already talked about this. Nobody has talked about this yet. You know, Jerome Powell, he fought personally. He had a lawyer. The Fed fought. They did not roll over. They did not lay down. And he was handed not just a victory, but a rebuke. And Judge Boasberg rebuked what this Justice Department had tried to do. And I juxtapose that with Lisa Cook, who is still a sitting governor on the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, who, when the president attacked her, not even through the courts, on social media, from a social media site with a post, and attempted to remove her, the Fed's statement was essentially institutional deference. A line from the statement, Skye read, "Will abide by court decisions." They said, well, here's the statute. We affirm, our commitment to independence. We'll let it play out in the courts. We'll abide. They didn't go fight for Lisa Cook. Lisa Cook right now is waiting on the Supreme Court to weigh in on whether she can keep her job or not. I must ask, why did the Fed and Jerome Powell in this particular situation fight one way, and when it came to Lisa Cook, the Fed fought or didn't fight another way?
I don't know what's in their minds. We know how this administration has treated black women. We also know how many people do. And so I think that those are definitely some questions that we all need to be asking. And I'm glad you ask it. By the way, Lisa Cook is going to prevail, I believe, at the Supreme Court.
And then why do you think that? Because it's not just about Lisa Cook. To be clear, Lisa Cook could have been any one of the governors,
correct,
but they targeted her.
It's about the governor.
It's about the governor. It's about the role. So why do you think she's going to prevail?
I think she's going to prevail. They don't have a basis for what they're doing. This is an independent Fed. I think the tariff decision, while it's not on the same sort of basis of the law, but I think that you see this court. We wish that they would rebuke the president on things like voting rights and civil rights, but I do think you see this court taking a very, very stern look at areas of economic, where our economic system is engaged and on the law, Lisa Cook should prevail.
You know, Ken, I want to swing that question because I think it's a very important question that Simone has posed from the very first day.
Yes.
The very first day that Lisa Cook's name was in the newspapers under this mess. First question out of Simone's mouth was, why her, particularly when she read how Jerome Powell and the Fed responded. From your reporting and your covering this particular aspect of the beat, do you have some sense why you have this sort of parallel response from the Fed, where it's all in to sort of build the wall up and protect the chairman, but one of their own governors, they were like, well, whatever the ruling is, we'll abide by it. I mean, it was very much a sort of laid-back response. Now, there may have been nothing to it, but that's why I'm asking a guy who's covering the beat. Maybe you heard something the rest of us don't know.
Well, one thing to keep in mind is it's really two discrete issues. One is the question, is sort of a constitutional question of when can the president remove a Fed board member? And that's something the Supreme Court is going to grapple with. That's very different from an illegitimate criminal investigation. And also, by the way, impugning this renovation that they're doing of the Fed headquarters, which has been examined by the Inspector General. And they've been making allegations about it that just aren't supported. And so I think the Fed got its back up about that. But in terms of they may have found it unseemly to be wading into this lofty constitutional question about when the president can fire Fed board members, since it's about them. But in terms of a criminal investigation, maybe that's where they drew the line. And that's, I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right. Powell, from day one on this, fought back vigorously. Remember, as soon as these subpoenas went out, he issued a video and went nuclear and essentially said, they're threatening to indict me. We can't have this. So I'm just throwing that out as one distinction. It doesn't explain fully the disparate reactions.
Well, I think it's a question Powell, my friend, should be asked at some point. What do you think? But anyway, I'll leave it to you, Vaughn.
Lisa Cook, remember, was also the target of potential criminal charges as well.
Yes.
So it wasn't as if, yeah.
One other quick question here before we go to break, because I know that we were talking a lot about the elections that are at stake here amid all of this. Just earlier this week, Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays, she sent a letter to county officials in Arizona saying don't turn over voter rolls. And I just want to understand, for folks that are understanding we're 6 months away here from the election and the midterms now, to what extent is legal capacities or the legal apparatuses in place to fight this at a local level and at a state level here right now? I know that this is coming sort of like hour by hour amid all these other big headlines in D.C., but what should folks understand about your guys' efforts on the ground?
I mean, lawyers are going to be ready, okay? Lawyers are going to be ready, and we don't need to wait until the midterms because, as you reference here, what we have seen in some of our cases is there is an active effort ongoing right now to seek to subvert, to intimidate voters, to seek to somehow subvert the midterm election. So the fight is on. We have filed cases in the courts. Many other lawyers have filed cases. State attorneys general are filing cases. So the lawyers are going to show up. I mean, that's what this last year has shown. What we need and what we're doing is we're calling on every single American in this country, regardless of what your political affiliation is, regardless of what your policy beliefs are. This country cannot give up the right to vote and needs to demand that these elections happen, that they be free and fair. And so we're calling on all Americans to make a plan about how they're going to vote, to make a plan about what they're going to do when someone tries to get them not to vote or when someone tries to disrupt. I mean, they're still talking about the 2020 election. I mean, there were Republican officials in Arizona that said there was nothing, there was no fraud. I mean, they're still talking about these myths that they've been trying to perpetuate for so long. And so we need all Americans to really make a plan. We're going to be coming out with resources at Democracy Forward about what people can do over the next few months. So you can tune in there. But lawyers are going to be ready. This is not going to be a lawyer problem, but it is a problem of American democracy, and it's going to take the people this time.
Skye Perryman, thank you so much. Ken Delaney, and so much breaking news. Thank you, as always, for jumping in with us.